The thing is, I'm out of coffee. So welcome back to Under the Liberty Tree. Like and subscribe and all the things, right? It's super duper duper important
please.
because
Thank
we
you.
are so close to being able to live syndicate from Rumble. So please go over to Rumble, mash the button, like, subscribe,
Yep.
follow, whatever the words are
Ask
that
your
are
friends
over there.
to do it.
Share. That's a good idea.
Thank you.
We've got I think a short one today. I want to talk a little bit about what pronouns Joe uses for his unacknowledged grandchild. And this came from a thing that I saw while I was browsing the interwebs. Such a great place to be. The interwebs they're such a beautiful, wonderful place to be.
Yes, very calm.
And they bring joy and happiness and peace. So I saw this and I wanted to play this for you and kind of give you my reaction, and then same rules. You get to react at the end.
Ask about the trial going on in Arkansas with Hunter Biden.
So there's a trial of the president's son, Hunter Biden, in Arkansas, and it's a child support trial.
Yes.
And Hunter is saying he shouldn't have to pay as much because he's broke.
And the child support. Are the president and first lady monitoring that? And how come they haven't acknowledged the seventh grandchild?
I'm not going to speak to that from here.
Now, that's nice, right? I mean, what a wonderful thing. If you're the president's press secretary and a question gets asked that you don't like, you just say, I'm not going to speak for that from here. Now, the reason I think this is important is I think personal family stuff should be left out, except it's always brought in when it's a conservative. And specifically, Joe Biden has portrayed himself as the champion of all things transgender. Now, to be fair, he did this during the campaign. Anybody who voted for him knew, because he said this during the campaign. Hey, I think whatever age a child wants to undergo either chemical castration or surgical mutilation, that's fine. But here's what he said when he was meeting with, I like the term, the term I want to use for this is a Dylan misogynist, because I actually think that this is very misogynistic, the behavior of this gentleman, in terms of the way he says it. But they had a presidential forum with Now This, which is a liberal propaganda group. And here's what the president said.
Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Thank you. I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that, as a moral question and as a legal question.
Now, that's where I want to focus on, because he says this is a moral question and a legal question. And I want to just address the morality of it, because we're told that people like President Biden are better people than people who say that the mind is where the attention should be focused rather than the body, if someone has a disconnect between what they feel about themselves and what is reality. But we're told that the moral answer is that we have to go along with whatever that person says. And the president has made a fairly big deal of this in terms of his public persona. Here's another thing that was almost a year ago. This is something that just came out a few weeks ago. This is a year ago. Sorry, that's right. This was Day of Visibility a year ago. And he says something very important here that I want you to hear.
Jill, Kamala, Doug, our entire administration sees you for who you are, made in the image of God and deserving of dignity, respect, and support.
Okay, catch that? Dignity, respect, support. Those are key terms there, okay? Because I want you to understand, this isn't really about anything other than, this has nothing to do, my comments on this have nothing to do with transgenderism. They have everything to do with this idea of being made in the image of God and deserving dignity, respect, and support.
President Biden addressing the nation on this Transgender Day of Visibility.
Okay, so we're all about visibility, right? But here's the thing. The president recently, April 27th, was this news report in the Washington Examiner. And the president recently held an event And he did not acknowledge or support one of his 7 grandchildren. He simply neglected to mention that the president was there, that this child existed. He said,
Very good
"This is the
connection.
president. I have 6 grandchildren. I'm crazy about them, and I speak to them every single day, not a joke." So he is elevating himself and his moral character as a wonderful, good, important person because he's so attentive to his grandchildren. Okay. And I just want to all I'm doing is calling out the hypocrisy. He described the 6 grandchildren, and I think it's of his children: Naomi, Finnegan, Maisie, Natalie, Hunter, and Bo, but neglected to mention the girl his son Hunter fathered in 2018. They're crazy about me because I pay so much attention to them. Now, when I saw this story, I started to think about a story that I'd read about the then I think vice president, I think he was campaigning, kissing his granddaughter.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I found this AP News article which says that the claims that he kissed a 15-year-old girl are false. So this is what the fact checkers do. They pick a small little mistake someone said somewhere, and then they frame the entire story, which is a kind of a weird story, because what actually happened is he did kiss his granddaughter on the lips. Now, I don't know what you think about that, but I think in public, at least, that seems like a strange way to behave. Does that seem like a strange way to behave to you?
That makes me ill. That
Yeah.
makes me physically ill in
Yeah.
my stomach.
Yeah.
Thinking
Well,
about
here's
that.
the video. We're told in the AP fact check that that this is, just like normal. But here's the video of this campaign event.
Founded by an Irish woman, I might add. Speaking of an Irish woman, I want to introduce you to my granddaughter, Finnegan Biden. Okay? Now, the reason I asked Finnegan, grandfathers are always allowed to embarrass.
Now, the whole thing is
their
kind of
daughters.
embarrassing.
Just
I'm
goes
going to
with the
skip ahead a little
territory.
bit
She
because I
knows
don't
it.
want to see the whole thing.
Now,
But I
I'll
want
tell
you to see
what, all
this.
you have granddaughters, and my wife, my daughter hates me saying this. Now she is, Daddy, you're not hydrated enough. Daddy, you're not. I got to help you. But somewhere when you put that beautiful little butterfly to bed about age 12 and a half, and you kiss her goodnight, your daughter, and you go in the next morning, and there's a snake in the bed.
Don't even try to explain
They
that.
say, Pam knows what I'm talking about. Don't kiss me in public, Dad.
Yeah, don't even try to
Dad,
explain
he's
that.
a really
That's
nice
just
boy.
too
Dad,
weird.
Dad, don't cheer so loud at my
It's
games.
just way too weird.
But granddaughters not. You all come back between 19 and 21. Okay, that happens. They all come back. But you don't always like your dad. You always love your dad. You don't always like your dad sometimes. But granddaughters not only love their dads, their grandpops, they always like them, and that's the great thing. Thank you, baby. Thanks.
And there it is. There is the kiss heard round the world. I just show that because I think it's important to remember this thing, and I didn't want to really focus on anything else other than this one thing, which is that they're gaslighting us. Everything they say has to be taken not seriously because the whole thing is a gaslight. Because here's a guy who says, right, that he cares about his grandchildren, says it's all about his grandkids and he loves them and he pays attention to them, but he's literally ignoring one of his 7 grandchildren.
Yes, he is.
So the idea that you engage these people seriously, and this is what they do. This goes back to, again, our very first episode, which was on gaslighting. It's all gaslighting. And it's so easy to fall into this trap of responding to whatever they say as if it's substantive. It's not. And we just need to say, no, you don't get to lecture people about caring about transgender people and their rights when you won't even acknowledge while bragging about your 6 grandchildren who you love and talk to every day, you won't acknowledge the 7th because the child was born, I guess, it was Hunter and a stripper or something.
Yes.
So that's all. I just needed to point that out. I needed to say, well, I don't know what you want to say, but
I want to point out that, first of all, that's disgusting. I don't know any. Maybe when you're a mama and you have a little 1-year-old and you're learning how to let's kiss, and you kiss your baby on the lips. Like that's totally different. That makes me physically ill to my stomach to watch that. But what makes me even more ill is watching the people behind him who, first of all, when he says, and you see when they get to be 12 and a half and next morning there's a snake in their bed.
Yeah,
And
what was that?
nobody, not one person behind him their face doesn't register like, what did
What
he
did
just
he just say?
Why can't Democrats ever be honest about the kooky, sick, weird things that their candidates say?
Yeah. That's
You're
very
not gonna
creepy.
like when a Republican says a kooky thing and I'm standing there, I'm like, what
What?
did he just say? I mean, be honest, people.
Right.
That is sick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if Trump says something sick, I might be like, "Ugh,
No.
that's just weird.
I don't pretend that I like Trump's character. I don't pretend that he says things that I think are offensive, like calling people names all the time. That just does not. I don't care for that, and that's why I thought he was a great president, but I don't think he's a great man. But that's I think it's weird to not even, and that's what I think is weird. Those people don't even find that weird
Yeah.
or offensive
Yeah.
or sick.
Yeah.
Uh,
If that doesn't make your stomach turn, then you're not thinking clearly.
And that's what we're fighting against.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
not fighting we're beyond arguments. We're beyond, constitutionalists or libertarians or liberals. No, we're so far beyond discussing arguments over minutia. We are in opposite ends of the field.
Yeah.
And we are rivals. You have to think of it that way.
Yeah.
We are
Not
rival
the
teams.
individuals.
No.
Not the individuals, but the
No.
ideology.
The ideology. We're
And,
rivals.
and I think what the
we have
mistake.
to win.
Yeah, and I think the mistake we make is that we think that we can win people over. I don't think you can win someone over who brags about loving their grandchildren so much that they talk to them every day, but simply just ignores one of them, and then wants to carry the banner of saying, "I care about you." Remember that visibility thing? He says, "I care about you." That as a moral and legal question,
Yeah.
that these people ought to be able to get support. Well, what about support for your own grandchild?
Yeah, he cares far more about strangers around the world than he does
Because
his own
none of
flesh
it's
and blood.
yeah, because none of it's serious. None of it's
No,
serious. All right,
none of it.
like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us under the Liberty
Have a
Tree.
happy day.
but just remember this: don't
Okay.
take them seriously. Don't let them gaslight
Mhm.
you. And that's why I raised the question. Maybe, and this would be the thing, I guess. His seventh unacknowledged grandchild should change her gender, and then he would have to.
There's an idea.
Then he would have to acknowledge her. All right, we'll see you next time under the Liberty.